Hello, good morning. How are you doing this morning? I don't know whether this light is okay or not, but let's crack on. So, how have you been doing? Wherever you're watching me from, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day to you. How are you? Hope you're keeping well. And happy celebrations, compliments of the season. I know we are in that festive mood, festive period where everybody is thinking about Christmas, strategizing about New Year and all of that. Yeah, so happy celebrations. This morning I want to talk about so one of the things I talk about, I'm into public health. I'm a public health practitioner. So one of the things I talk about is children. I talk a lot about children, and I talk about their learning, how their development is related to their learning, and how parents can better support them in terms of educational support, social support, nutritional support, and all of those things. So that's what I want to talk about this morning. Imagine that you got pregnant, and throughout the pregnancy period there was nothing unusual, maybe the normal pregnancy symptoms, no serious ailment, no nothing, and you are happy that, oh, okay, finally we're going to have a child, we're going to have a daughter, we're going to have a son, and it goes on like that until the day they say, hey, congratulations, your baby is born. And then you celebrated, you went back home, and everything was going normal until one day you look at your child and you discover that I can't really place it, but I think something is wrong. Imagine the shock. First of all, yeah, the shock. That's usually the first thing. The shock, the disappointment that follows. And then I won't call it struggle, a beginning of a journey. Beginning of a journey, yeah. So it's a beginning of a journey that you usually don't know how it's going to end. You don't know. But this morning, I just want to encourage you that if you have a child with additional needs, all hope is not lost. There are these days there are a lot of support, there are a lot of help, but you will be the champion in pursuing those things, because nobody's going to deliver what you need to your laps, unfortunately. That's the world we live in. Wherever you are in the world, whether you are in Africa, you are in Europe, anywhere you are in the world, nobody, that support or the services is not so abundant that, oh, somebody is just going to give you what you want without you actively, proactively asking questions, asking for what you think your child needs at that particular moment. Do you understand? Yeah. So having said that, I just want to quickly remind us, because there's nothing new under heavens, really. Nothing is new. So I quickly want to remind us about the difference between learning difficulty and learning disability. Sometimes it might be the symptoms that we are seeing in those kids might look the same, especially at the initial stage, but they are different. They are different. Learning difficulty is a bit mild, that with the right support the child can overcome, and when the child grows we might not even notice. Nobody might be able to say, oh, this person is suffering from this person is suffering from this, especially if the child is a female. Girls are, especially when they're younger, they are a bit, I won't call them smarter, but they're a bit faster, they mature a bit faster than boys when it comes to meeting developmental milestones. So what's the difference between learning difficulty and learning disability? A learning difficulty is a challenge that affects just the cognitive aspect or a particular aspect of the child's development. It affects just the learning or the cognitive aspect of the child's development. And we have some examples. The most common ones that we can easily lay our hands on is ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive disorder. Such kids will not be able to settle down to learn. Sometimes you see them everywhere, climbing, crawling. Part-time, they must be doing something. They are not settled. They are not settled. So that's not where I'm going this morning. I just want to remind us that part of symptoms or the conditions of learning difficulty is ADHD. Some kids present lots of symptoms. So you just have to know your child and know that, okay, this symptoms is different from this is different from this. And even with children suffering from ADHD, it is not all of them that will exhibit the same symptoms at the same time. It's usually a range. So a child might be able to maybe sit and have a meal. Another child might not be able to sit through a meal, especially when the family sits together to have their meals together. A child that's suffering from ADHD might not be able to sit down properly and sit through a meal. Another example is dyslexia. When a child is suffering from dyslexia, the child might not be able to read at the pace at which other children that don't suffer from ADHD will read. The letters will just be jumping up and down. When you spell C-A-T, cat, that child might not be able to say C-A-T is cat because the letters don't just come together to form cat. So they have difficulty in reading. Another example is dysgraphia, and there are a lot of them, a lot of other conditions that a child that is suffering from learning difficulty may present. Now, learning disability is more profound, and it doesn't just affect the learning aspect of a child's life. It goes beyond that. It affects every single aspect. Talk of social development. A child that is suffering from learning disability may not be able to cope socially if there's no support. And yeah, it affects every aspect of the child's life. And it is usually being masked in girls, especially when they're younger. It is difficult to diagnose girls that are suffering from learning disability when they're younger, because girls tend to grow a bit more mature than the boys. I don't know whether you understand what I'm talking about. Now, if you raise some children, you've raised different sexes, you've raised boys and girls, you will understand what I'm talking about. Girls may start talking faster than boys. Girls may crawl faster than boys. Girls may start walking a little bit earlier than boys. They may try to form their first words, they meet their developmental milestones a bit earlier than boys. So when a girl child is suffering from learning disability, such child may not be diagnosed on time, or the parent might not know on time until they grow a little bit older. So when they grow older, they kind of merge in their in meeting their developmental milestones, and then when they're reaching the age of 6, 7, 8, yeah, you'll begin to say that I don't know what's happening, but something is wrong about this girl. But if it is boys, believe me, before the age of 4, you will know. You will know that something is wrong somewhere. For example, there are some behaviors that are socially acceptable in the society. A child that has learning disability does not understand anything that is socially acceptable or socially not acceptable. They just don't get it. And it's not the fault, it is not that they are deliberately being wicked, or they're deliberately being disobedient, or they're deliberately being just being a nuisance. It is just that their brains are wired in a different way. For example, a child that has extra chromosome in the gene will have Down syndrome. You understand? So examples of the conditions that a child may have when you notice that, okay, this one has a learning disabilities, the spectrum in autism, the autism spectrum disorder. Then another example is Down syndrome, and then we have the Rett syndrome. But I think the most common is the autism and the Down syndrome. And even the autism, it is not it's a spectrum, so you can't box a child into a particular condition when it comes to autism. The way the condition will affect a child A might be different from the way the condition will affect child B. Do you understand? So a child that has autism spectrum disorder may not be able to express or wants or desires verbally. Some children that are suffering from autism, they are not verbal. Some of them don't talk at all. So imagine if a child does not talk at all. Imagine the tantrums, imagine the emotional trauma, imagine the struggle that such a child will be going through, even at very young age. Even children that are able to express their needs, oh mommy, I want water, mommy, I want to go to the toilet, they are still not getting their needs met at the right time sometimes. Now talk of a child that is not verbal at all. Some of them may be verbal, but their language use will be restricted or limited. For example, a child of age 6, age 7 that is not able to make conversations. Okay? So such a child may not be able to even make 2-3 sentences without pausing. All you hear is maybe one word answer, two words answer. Yes, it's okay. I know. And then they use such children, they tend to get people's attention or their parents' attention by touching. So because there are deficits in language, they use other means to express their needs. Are you getting what I'm saying? I don't know whether the difference between learning difficulty and learning disability is getting clearer. A child suffering from learning difficulty will only be affected when it comes to learning. The child may not be able to read the child at the right time. The reading might be difficult, learning mathematics, learning science might be difficult for such child. But a child, but such child is not going to be affected when it comes to normal living. As in, okay, go and dress up in the morning. That child may be able to fit in into a routine. You won't even know when it doesn't come to academics that this child has a learning difficulty. But a child that is suffering from learning disability is going to affect all areas of the child's life. That child does not understand any kind of routine that is not established through support. That child, when he goes out and comes in, you may not be able to say, oh, this child has autism and the autism is mild or profound or severe or moderate. You understand, without proper diagnosis. So I just want to talk to parents this morning that when you see that something is off about your child, begin to read around the symptoms. Read around it. Ask questions. I know that where I come from, the support, the awareness is so limited. It is limited because we have bigger problems that we are dealing with in Africa. So I get it. The support, the awareness is just not there. You understand? But that doesn't mean you cannot ask the right questions, talk to the right professionals. If it means talking to other professionals outside the country, please go ahead and do it. So when you see a child that is misbehaving, in quotes, maybe you see a child on a Sunday morning, everybody has dressed up and the shirt is like this. You know, when your shirt is supposed to be buttoned from one button to another, and you see that this one is not just getting it, and you're like, what is wrong with you? You are 8 years old and you still cannot button your shirt. What is wrong with you? Yes, that's the first reaction. But after the shouting and the screaming, please begin to ask questions. Begin to look deeply into the child. Look more closely at the child. Look at the struggles. Write them down and begin to study. Because maybe not. Maybe something is wrong somewhere. Do you get the gist? Maybe something is wrong somewhere. So if you have a child with additional needs, shouting, screaming, beating, especially in Africa, may not be the solution. Trust me, it will make things worse. It will make things worse, and it's going to destroy that child. It's going to destroy the self-confidence. It's going to destroy a lot of things internally, especially when the child has limited vocabulary to express how he or she is feeling. Then instead of things to get better and improve, the child is just going to nosedive into a lot of things that I'm not going to talk about today. So when you see some signs, when your child is not meeting the developmental milestones, begin to ask questions. There are some things that are natural. For example, if you have a boy child and that is your firstborn, it is natural for some boys not to be able to talk early. Do you understand? For example, if your firstborn is a boy and there are no other children in the house that the child can mingle with, especially when the child is not going to school early enough, maybe if the child is not talking at the right time, you don't have to start panicking and start, hey, what's wrong with my boy? I don't know. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not here to create anxiety and put fears in your heart. No, We know these children, when they are in the midst of other children, they express themselves better. But if your child is a firstborn and is a boy especially, and the boy is not talking at the age of 1 or 2, then you don't have anything to worry about. You just have to maybe create awareness, make the, if the child can go to school, yes. If not, if you still want to keep the child at home, encourage verbal communication. Encourage verbal communication. When you are going to be intentional in talking to that child. Do you understand? So I'm not saying if you have firstborn or your children are not among other children where they can easily mingle and talk, that you start panicking. No, that's not what I'm saying. Do you get? But you will know, especially as a mother, when something is wrong. Even as a father, you will know when something is wrong. You understand? And when you notice your instincts are right, or trust your instinct, it is better to be safe than to be sorry. Do you understand? So learning difficulty is different from learning disability. Learning disability affects every aspect of the child's life, while learning difficulty can be corrected with support, especially from school. Okay? So till I come your way again, if you have any question, please ask me, and then I will bring more of these topics. We will have more discussions around these topics as the day go by. Okay? Till I come your way again, I'm Temi. I'm your public health practitioner. I talk about a lot of things, especially anything that relates to our health. Sometimes I talk about finances, and I talk about children with learning difficulty or children with additional needs. All right, take care of yourself, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.